Yo, what up? It's JSF, and I want to talk about something with Mortal Kombat 1, which it's a big issue with the game. It's pretty much the biggest issue with the game, but it's not even just one issue. And this is something I've been thinking about for a few days, or probably a week or so, like since the game has been out. And I've just always got the feeling since I got hands on with this game, and the more I hear people talk about it, the more I see, the more I know, I'm just like, this game is like, it's like a time capsule, bro. It's like somebody went back in time 10 years and found an old fighting game that we used to like love playing, and then you brought it into the modern era, and it's like, yo, this game is kind of trash. But let me explain what I mean, because like I said, we all know, right? I'm done praising the game. We know the game is fun to play. They had the 1v1, the actual combat in match. We know that that's fun. We know like training mode is fun because you can just try shit and learn all kinds of cool things. But I didn't pay $100 for a fucking training mode simulator, bro. Like, I didn't pay $110 in pre-order just to have fun in the lab. Like, that's not enough for me or for anybody. So there's a lot of things that not only did I notice, I've seen other people talking about, some people on Reddit, some people on Discord, some people in general, but just things that make me feel like this game is just, it released at the wrong time. Like, Mortal Kombat 1 came out at the worst possible time. And for a lot of reasons, right? One of the big reasons this game released at the worst time is it followed up Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 is not perfect by any stretch of the mind, but it was extremely well received before it came out. There was multiple betas. It was rolled out there was a whole gradual rollout. We got trailers for every character. We got character guides, even if they're just the basic ones that are in the game. We got high level match footage of every character before the game launched. So like, we saw a ton of Street Fighter. We got to play the game almost a year before it launched. You know what I mean? The entire roster leaked a year before launch, and it still didn't negatively affect the game at all, which is why it's so goofy when NetherRealm tries to hide the shit that's in the game, thinking that's gonna build some kind of anticipation or hype. It's really not. But the most obvious issue that kind of makes this game feel dated already is just that it's extremely buggy and unbalanced at launch. And we know fighting games, especially vanilla fighting games, aren't going to be balanced perfectly. Even Street Fighter 6, which is a game with relatively good balance, still has some characters that are stupid, right? Some characters that are pretty weak and some characters that are super strong. But it's the balance of that game overall feels good. The balance of this game does feel kind of goofy. Like, you can just pick Baraka Cyrax and not think and beat 80% of players. You know what I mean? Not to say Baraka Cyrax is top one, but there's shit like Kenji in the game. Like, Kenji's pretty nonsensical. Like, things like Kung Lao being the only character in the game that has a armored wake up that also can launch for a full combo that's safe on block. Like, he's the only character in the game with that, because that's like something like they made it a point to say no armored launchers. And there's characters like Havoc, right? Havoc has an armored move that also launches, but if the armor is triggered, it won't launch. So they literally thought about that move specifically and said, hey, we can't let this move be an armored launcher, so if it armors, it won't launch. So we don't have armor launchers. But then you pick Kung Lao, you have an armored launcher. You pick other characters, you have an armored launcher. And it's like, bruh, okay, so armor launchers are in the game, he just can't have it, right? So it's just a lot of inconsistencies and things that just come along with rushing a game or not polishing your game. It's just not playtesting it enough, or not giving us the final build. Another thing is there's no good single player content. Like, there's invasions mode, and I know in RS games, they have their story modes, right? So the story mode and invasions mode. And invasions mode is basically just like the Towers of Time, just a little more tedious. But then we had the crypt, and the crypt was actually really cool. I think the crypt is OD slept on. Like, the MK11 crypt is probably the best thing about the game, honestly. Other than like the character models and designs looking good, but I'm not here to talk about presentation. It's a $1 billion IP with a $1 billion corporation. Of course, the presentation is gonna look good. Gotham Knights looked good as far as presentation goes, but the game sucked, right? So, and I just lost my train of thought, but that's okay. Single player content, there's nothing really, like, nobody really, like, there are some people, I'm not gonna say nobody, but a lot of people don't love invasions mode, and it's very tedious, it's very grindy, and you can still get through it in a few days if you grind through it, and that's it. I guess you could say you could do the same thing with the crypt, but there was so much to do in the crypt and just running around, finding all those chests. Like, it would take you a while. Like, even if you knew what you were doing, it would take you a long time to get through all that shit. And then there were just like, you would need to get out of the crypt and then go do, I mean, doing like 50 fatalities to each character was a little much, but like things like you would need to do outside of the crypt to unlock things for the crypt to go back so you can, you know, get the other chests and stuff like that. I thought it was pretty cool. I actually hope that they would expand on that and like make a new Shaolin Monks, with that being like the, like, use the crypt in MK11 as like the prototype for what a new Shaolin Monks kind of game would be like. Not exactly, but you know what I mean. Use that as like a baseline. Like, hey, we have the 3D fucking sandbox open world third person type of game we can run, and I think that would have been cool. But sadly, nothing like that in this game. One issue I wasn't aware of that I just found out about, like reading about it on the internet, is this game is a server game. You need to be online to play this game, basically. And when I say that, I don't mean to just go online and play ranked. I mean to play the game. If you are offline, you lose access to anything that you unlock in this game. You need to connect to the servers to access it. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal. Like, oh, what, I lose like some costumes? I lose my skins and my gear? Yes. Like, you lose anything you unlock in Evasions? Yes. However, you also lose all the cameos you unlock. Oh, so do you play Scorpion? Do you play Motaro? Do you play, you know, any of those cameos? Well, guess what? You're offline. You don't have them anymore. You just imagine being in a tournament and shit goes down. Like, so like the servers aren't online. There's some internet, you know, connectivity issues. Boom, shit goes out. Now you're trying to run a tournament and you don't have 5 of the cameos, right? Oh, you play Havoc, you don't have him either. Shang, I've seen both. Shang is a coin flip. I've seen some people say they have Shang when they're offline, some people say they don't. But the fact that you lose so much of the game just because you're offline, let's just say my internet goes out, bro. It happens. I have Cox internet, bro. Shit is shitty sometimes. Sometimes there's an outage in my area. There's nothing I can do about it. If I boot up this game, I suddenly can't go into training mode with my cameo because I play Sub-Zero cameo. It's fucking silly, bro. And this is something that, like I said, like maybe 6-7 years ago wouldn't be like a big deal. Maybe 8 years ago wouldn't be a big deal. But in the modern era, it's like, yo, what? Absolutely not. And that's like all these issues. Like the video I made about there's no Pro Tour, no competitive circuit, no NRS Pro competition or MK Pro competition like MK11 had. And that's not something that's required. But every major fighting game release has that with it in this era. Like MKX I think actually did. But like, let's say Injustice 1 10 years ago, there was no pro circuit when that game launched, right? And ever since like around 2015, 2016, almost all fighting games, the major fighting game releases have all been starting to come with like some kind of Pro Tour, some kind of support for competitive play for the game. Like the people who play the game the most, show it off the most, like make it the most exciting. Like we add to the longevity of the game 1000%. And just to see no support and it's not even that there isn't one. It's just that there's no information about it. There's nothing. There isn't a, hey, coming soon. Hey, yes. There isn't a, hey, we plan on doing support for our pro players and, you know, people who want to become pro players, people who want to compete. There's just not even a word about it. You can just announce it and say coming soon. That's not great, but it's something. You know what I mean? The biggest one, obviously, is no crossplay. And I've already talked about this. Everybody's talked about this, so I'm not going to say much. But there's no crossplay in the game. And again, this is something that wasn't the industry standard 10 years ago. Wasn't necessarily the standard for fighting games 5 years ago. But shit, man, KOF's getting crossplay. Street Fighter 6 had Street Fighter 5 had crossplay for the consoles it was on. Street Fighter 6 obviously has full crossplay. And again, like if you just look and compare this game to Street Fighter 6 or Tekken 8 or like the other fighting games that have just released or that are about to release, they have all the shit. Like Grand Blue's getting crossplay. Like all the shit this game doesn't have, those games are gonna have, and it just makes this game like look a lot worse. It makes it look a lot more dated, right? This game also has On This DLC, which I made a video about. Something that goes back to the days of like Street Fighter Cross Tekken and shit, and people were pissed about it then. Like the idea that I bought the game, everything in the game should be mine. And like it's one thing if it's like, oh, it's in the game, but you gotta unlock it. You're like, okay, cool. but it's like a lot of shit is just behind the paywall. Like the Scorpion Deadly Alliance skin that they just made it so we can buy a couple days ago, that's been in the game. Like I've seen footage of that in the game, like as soon as the game launched. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of that. I still wholeheartedly believe Ermac and Quan Chi were in the game and that got their movesets taken out of the game. There are tons of skins in the game that you still cannot get at all. Some that you'll probably never be able to get, which I think is crazy. But yeah, it's just a lot of shit on the disc, and it's like it's not a huge deal. But when you look at this with a lot of other things, like bro, why can't I just play? Why can't I just pick the story mode skins Johnny Cage has? Why can't I pick them? Why can't I pick the ones Raiden has? Why can't I pick Robot Smoke? I fought against Robot Smoke in Chapter 15 Armageddon. Why can't I just pick that costume? Why can't I don't think there's a way to unlock it, but it's clearly in the game, right? And there's a ton of shit like that. I understand Ermac and Quan Chi are full characters, and in the game currently they weren't full characters. I just think they swapped their movesets out, but whatever. The last things I want to talk about, or the last thing really, is just the netcode, right? The horrible netcode. This netcode feels like some 2014 ass netcode. It's worse than MK11s. It's worse than Injustice 2s. It's probably worse than MKXs, which is crazy, right? The forced rank first to 3 mixed with the horrible netcode just makes it worse, right? You run into somebody else, shitty Wi-Fi. There's a ton of Wi-Fi players in Mortal Kombat, and you can have Wi-Fi connections that aren't the worst in the world. They're just the most unstable. Like in Street Fighter, I can play against some people on Wi-Fi. Sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's fine, right? In this game, it's a 99% chance Wi-Fi, I'm fucked, right? And then wired, there's like a 60% chance I'm fucked. Even though I have great internet and I live around tons of people. Like there's no reason I shouldn't be able to find matches with people with good connections. But happens all the time, right? There's also no blacklist feature in this game. There's no way to just say, hey, this person's connection was so bad, I don't want to play them. There's no way to do that. And I just don't understand. Like, that was in Street Fighter 5 in 2016. Like, I just don't get it. Like, some of these issues, man. Like, this game had the most dev time, but it's just the least polished. And I know we know by now that the game, it's got some bugs, it's got some issues. It's not even just bugs, man. It's like design flaws. It's like oversights. Like, it's incompetence, right? It's like the devs aren't paying attention. Like, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Or they're just so pushed around, pressed for time, and too pussy to say something that we just gotta deal with it. And that's a whole video in itself. Like, some of the decisions they make, I'm like, yo, are the guys in QA, like, not doing anything? Are you guys not saying, hey, we should probably address this? Like, I don't or are the people who need to, program the game not listening to the QA guys? Like, what's going on in NetherRealm, honestly? Because something ain't right. And I'm glad that people have spoke out about it, but I think we need to make a bigger fuss about it to the point that they have to address it directly, apologize for it, and fucking fix it. Because we all don't like this shit. We all have a problem with this shit, right? And we need to, like, don't sugarcoat it. Don't be like, hey, the game is great, but can you guys fix this stuff? Be like, yo, this is unacceptable. We paid $100 for this. We paid $70 for this. Some people paid, like, for the fucking statue and shit, like $200 for this, $300, however much it costs. We paid too much fucking money for this shit to accept mediocrity. Like, no. Fuck all the, I'm happy I got something, I'm just happy to have a game. No, fuck that. We need to demand better because we won't get it if we don't. If we as consumers just let the developers keep dropping shit on our doorstep, guess what? They're gonna keep dropping shit on our doorstep. Here's the thing about humans. As human beings, you're gonna do what you're allowed to get away with. That's just human nature. So if this is working, it's selling, if this game sells 5 million, 10 million copies, whatever it's projected to sell, why the hell would they fix it? Why do you think they just stopped support for MK11 when people were still trying to compete in the game and play it a lot, and it still had a lot of potential life? All they did was open it up and say, hey, custom variations, boom, bye. And that was it. They didn't fix any of the issues because their higher up said, hey, move on to the next game. And they had no reason to argue, no reason to think anything. They're like, all right, fine, fuck them. And that's what they're going to keep doing. So if you wonder why I keep complaining about this game, I'm going to keep doing it because I want this game to be great. I want good fighting games, bro. Why is it so complicated? It's really not that hard to do. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here. Y'all enjoy y'all day, man. Catch me on Twitch. Check out my clips channel too. I'm uploading like moments from like my stream when people annoy me and I talk shit, or just funny moments that people in the stream like. So check out JSF Clips channel. I don't know how to link it, but it exists. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm out of here. Peace.